I posted this in a comment in another post, and another user suggested I share it here. So why not? So I've been on Grindr for about 10 years, 5 of which were legal. I'm not proud of it, and had plenty of messed up experiences. This one in particular reminds me of when I was at a party without my car. I was 19 in college, and my phone was at 10%, but a decently hot Grindr guy said he could pick me up, and we could hang out at his place before he drove me home. So of course I jumped on the opportunity. Anyway, we got to his place, and he got me pretty drunk, which isn't usual for me, but never tried to make a move. I assumed he was going to wait and just convinced me to stay the night later on. Finally my phone died after about 2 hours. The last 1% lasted a lot longer than the rest. And I didn't even have to say anything before he noticed it was dead. Then he stood up and was like, "Well, let's go to the car then." When I asked him if he had a charger I could use, he just said, "No." After we got in the car, he got kind of quiet and less flirty, and I spaced out just enjoying his music and looking out the window. I didn't even notice that he never asked me where I lived, until I realized we'd been driving for over an hour. Not even towards my town, but into the canyons of Greater Salt Lake City. I asked him where we were going, and he just said, "Thought we could just go for a drive." And my drunk ass was like, "Oh, okay." So anyway, to make a long story shorter, he ended up taking us about 4 or 5 miles down a dirt road with no signs or houses until it dead-ended into this cabin with no lights on or cars outside. And he just parked and turned off his car. That's when the dread started to creep in as I sobered up. I said I drank too much and I should probably head home, but he didn't even respond. He just sat there staring at the cabin. Then he was like, "You said you like to be kinky. You're pretty submissive, correct?" And I was like, sure, but I just meant like normal rough kind of stuff. Nothing wild." And he started to sound a little annoyed, and his sentences seemed a little less carefully worded, like he was spitting out the bare minimum effort in each thought. He said something about some of his favorite people are those who can find pleasure in pain, and if someone goes into shock enough times, eventually it becomes a drug, and they crave it more. And then something about pushing a person into the deep end is the fastest way to teach them how to swim. At that point I was scared enough to assert myself, and said firmly, "Okay, well that sounds fun, but just not tonight. I just want to go home now. This place is creepy." And he just sighed and gripped his keys tighter. Then right as I glanced at his phone sitting in the cup holder, right before it occurred to me to grab it, he snatches it up so fast and held it in his left hand, kind of like behind his head, making it clear that I wasn't going to go near it. I made this kind of, "what?" sound, and he just gave me this almost, "I'm proud of you, son," half smile, like dads do when they pat your shoulder or something. It was quiet, and he kept looking me up and down for a minute or so. Then got a little bit more gruff, and said, "Let's go inside. I have these friends you'll really like once you meet them. You'll feel a lot better." Or something to that extent. But he wasn't even trying to sound genuine or comforting like he had been doing so well earlier that night. Finally I lied and spoke up a bit and told him, "I told my roommates and my friends I was meeting up with you before you picked me up. I sent screenshots of your face and some on the convo. They're gonna freak out if I don't charge my phone and reply to them in the next few hours." I try not to make it sound accusatory, but more like I was just worried that my friends would go crazy. But it was clear he knew what I was implying. At that point, he let out an exasperated, grunty sigh and started the car and we drove away. He kept his headlights off all the way back down the dirt road for some reason. Driving back, I got nervous about him stalking me or coming after me in the future, so I tried to apologize and tell him I was down to hang out another time. But tonight was just not feeling great for me. Blah blah blah. He didn't say a single word to me the whole drive back. He didn't ask me where I lived, and I didn't intend to tell him either. But he dropped me off at a McDonald's about 40 miles away from my apartment. And when I was stepping out, he suddenly leaned over and gave me a hard shove, so I almost fell out the rest of the way. He grabbed my backpack off the floor and flung it out his window across the parking lot and peeled out with the passenger door still open. He broke my laptop and cracked my phone, and I had to ask a stranger to use their charger and call an Uber. But at this point, I was just so anxious to get home, I didn't really give a crap. What's so weird is how, while this was happening, even though I was terrified, I guess I wasn't thinking about exactly what he was planning to do with me. I just knew I needed to get away. So it wasn't until I got home and got in the shower that I realized how messed up it was, and what might have happened if I let him walk me into the cabin. I remember just being so shaken and smacked by the reality of it. Almost felt like a panic attack. So I sat down in the shower, with my head between my knees, and cried till the water ran cold, and I got out and woke up my roommate. I told him about it, and he kinda calmed me down. So while I still have a Grindr account, I really just use it for an ego boost. I'm reluctant to meet up with anyone from it now. Anyway, girls and guys, I suppose the moral of the story is, we gotta be careful out there.